Hello again. My name is Nathaly Salas with Unicorn Properties, and we're talking about DR today. We have a group for international real estate within our larger family of EXP. Just a little bit about why we do these calls, and I want to share, more information on why you might want to join down the line or soon. Here's my QR code. You can text me. This goes directly to my cell phone. This is my information and social media. My name is again Nathaly. I am based out of Chicago, but we serve Mexico, the Mexico market in real estate. I help mostly with the concierge service on helping clients getting through the questions that they might have when they start their search online, all the way through the showings and sales in Mexico from coast to coast pretty much. And we have different partners that are very strong in each area, but I specialize on getting people through, how do I do this? As I mentioned, our company, our brand is Unicorn Properties. Within EXP, we're part of the larger group, the Wolfpack. Just for background, the ones that know, with our EXP family. A little bit about EXP. We're in every single state of the US and 24 countries around the world. And why this is important is because our network, as you can see today, we have our peers presenting from DR. But we're almost 90,000 agents around the world where we exchange and give each other not only education and real estate, but also leads and referrals, which is awesome. These are the countries we're in the map. And this is the list that we are currently present in 24 countries, 4 different continents. The main reason that we do these calls is because a lot of the content we create is not mainstream online. So we have to ask our peers locally, hey, what do you think about this? Do you know anybody for that? Do you know any attorneys, any accountants? Because when clients want real estate or they're curious about real estate internationally, they not only buy real estate because they're like, oh, I woke up and I'm going to buy real estate now. It's because they have to go and do certain research, and it comes from the financing. How do I find the money? Do you finance me there? Is it a cash purchase? How do I do the legal? Can I own in that country? What do I do with my income, my rental income? Do I need to declare in the country that I have my property, or do I declare in my country? And then we have all the way through construction, architecture, including immigrations when some people want to stay in the country for longer, and what are the terms and conditions that each country has, and what are the benefits too, because now we have a new asset, which is like multiple passports. We chatted about that with Sally earlier in a podcast. But yeah, passports are a new thing, more than houses. Now, the more passports, the more options you have on traveling the world. We also talk about property management and how important it is to have a good property manager in the location your house or home or condo is in, because without that, probably, you won't have a grasp on what your investment might be. How do you get people in and out of your rental income house? And also, if you decide to move there full time, we have relocation service partners that help us with the extra piece to get the full circle on the real estate purchase. Something I like to mention, I keep mentioning every week because it's super important. And I think that I can't emphasize enough to work with a showing agent that actually lives in the location, because you will think, most people live in the location, but not everybody does. We have to separate the group between remote agent and showing agents. And the reason I mention that is because we have a large network. So a lot of people, let's say in our market, sell Mexico, but they don't really understand fully like what is, being there on the ground, what's, happening, what good and bad is happening. So we need to understand these things, who are the good developers, who are the bad developers. And being remote, you can understand about the market, but you cannot fully be versed on what happens every day. That's when it comes with these presentations. We work with showing agents that actually live in the location, understand their market very well, and they are plugged in to the community. They're plugged into what's happening. They're plugged into, there is a new airport, there's a new road, there is like, a strike, something, because there's always something happening somewhere around the world. So being in the location at least 60% of the time or more, it helps with making sure that your client is taken care of. That's why we have two different types of, agents. And it's good for you to understand both of them are really good, no separation who's good. We're learning more about DR. We are remote agent for DR, but we're not a showing agent because we don't live there. We just understand a little bit about the market enough to create lead generation for our peers and probably close on a referral. but I cannot be like, I'm an expert on DR because I'm not. So the more we learn, the more we can refer. But please make sure that, you know, your agent is a showing agent that lives on the location, that specializes on the area, that has direct contact with the client. Otherwise, your client probably will go from one person to the other, to the other, to the other, and then the communication will break. Client will have a bad experience. So it's just better to connect them directly with the agent that is going to close the transaction instead of having, you know, hand over the client from realtor to realtor to realtor, which is not a good experience. Why is this important? We are a company that we encourage referrals. Commission splits are super important for us. And the reason that you might want to hear this, you know, presentation all the way to the end is because there's some money involved for you if you're a realtor. So you can make extra money by sending a referral, in this case to DR, just by paying attention to what they're sharing and see how you can poke your client's interest if that's the location they want to go to, or you heard they want to move to the Caribbean, they don't know what country. Now you know a little more information to just close that referral and make an extra couple $1,000 based on the commission split that you agree with the showing agent. This is very flexible. It will vary from agent to agent. And again, we encourage you to just have the conversation with your partners in other countries. A little bit about the agenda, and with this I finish. We had last week 2 sessions on Portugal. We divided by theory and practice, because the theory is like reading a book. You know, people tell you about it, but the practice is how much is real estate in that country. You know, what do you get for what? What kind of amount of money you should save to probably buy there, or how do you finance it? So we have the theory and the practice for each country. Currently, we are in DR. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about, you know, what's the theory behind DR, and next week we will talk about what listings do we have from our teams there, or our team, you know, that will be presenting on what's listed right now, what deals do we have over there, and then after that we have Puerto Rico and Italy next. So please stay tuned, and with that I'll finish and stop sharing so we can have our guests, Daryl and Oriana. So
do you still have our presentation?
Yeah, let me find that 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were gonna pull it up, but
You didn't change, right? Hello, guys.
Hello.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. So my name's Daryl Watkins from Frida Builders Global Group in the Dominican Republic. This is one of my partners, Oriana.
Hello, I am Oriana Pavese. We are here located in Dominican Republic. We are not Dominicans, but we love this country and we promote it worldwide, right?
Pretty. And then that's just our team photo that we have for if you go to like our website. So that's one of our partners is in Canada right now. So it's not able to be on the call.
Yeah, exactly.
And just a little about us. So I'm married. We have my wife and I have 1 son. Formerly, before I came to the Dominican Republic, I was in management at Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada. Something interesting about me is I scaled the Great Wall of China. And when I say scaled the Great Wall, I don't mean the tourist part. I mean the rustic part where it's very dangerous. And it was actually a really, really cool experience. And I've been in the DR for almost 3 years now, over 2.5 years now.
Well, me, I'm originally Colombian, born in Germany. I'm a single mom. I have 1 son. I am a member of the AFEC DR, which is the Association of Feminine Enterprises in Tourism, representing Dominican Republic in whole Iberoamerica. My passion is dancing and sports. And well, I have been living in Dominican Republic over 15 years by now. So here's a little bit of what we're going to be talking. Let's start then. We're based in the Dominican Republic, as we said before, but we work internationally. So like this, we work together with EXP also, and we kind of like to globalize all our networks.
And what's important about that is we have a lot of our clients that come from Europe, Canada, United States, even Russia. You're starting to see Asia start to invest here, different parts of Asia investing here. So it's very important to have that international connection because you never know who's coming here and how we can help work with other people from other countries. Basically, that's right now it's about 58-1. It's actually 59-1, but
It always changes.
it's always fluctuating a bit. Sometimes it'll go as low as 52, but typically between 52 and 59.
Exactly, with the US dollar, right?
So just some of the things that make the Dominican Republic very attractive for tourists or for investors is that there's lots of opportunities across the coastal areas of the Dominican Republic. We have the North Coast with Puerto Plata, Susua, Cabarete, Monte Cristi is starting to pick up as there's cruise ships that go there now. We also have Las Traenas, which is another up and coming. Some major developers have started developing there. And I'll let you talk about South.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have here also Puerto Plata,
Cana.
Punta Cana, Santiago, Santo Domingo. We, in this country of the Dominican Republic, we have very different destinations because we have a lot of coastal destinations which are much more touristic because of the beach side and everything. But we have also beautiful mountain areas. We have also the highest mountain in the whole Caribbean, which is very good for the amazing views we can have, obviously, and fresh weather, but also because of the weather situation. So because of our high mountains, we don't get so many like huge hurricanes or tornadoes into the country. They just pass by, right? So this is something that is a very good protection for the country of Dominican Republic in the middle of the Caribbean, where a lot of other islands suffer too much about these weather circumstances, right?
Yeah, and so just to touch base, if you look right in the middle, there's a place called Jarabacoa. That is a very up and coming area for expats that want that cooler weather, but you know, you're only an hour and 40 minutes away from a beach if you want to go to the coast. So there is a lot of expats that are moving to Jarabacoa and areas like that. But that one right now is the one most up and coming one from the inner city or the inner part of the country.
Yes.
Next. So for investments right now, like we just talked about, we talked about Puerto Plata, Las Traenas, Punta Cana, Santo Domingo, Santiago, but we also have to add to this map Jarabacoa because Jarabacoa is coming. But we are seeing like Oriana knows more about Monte Cristi and Barajoa as the tourist destination. So I'll let her talk about those ones a bit more.
Yeah, well, I mean, Monte Cristi and Barahona are destinations that are a little bit more further away from like what is the central area of Dominican Republic. It's a little bit longer drive over there because here normally you drive to every destination. But it's protected destinations, like nature protected. And it's really, really amazing, how do you say, amazing land.
Array of land, right? Just because they want to protect everything and maintain the nature part of that. Where if you look at Punta Cana is becoming a major, I wouldn't say major metropolitan like New York, but it's a very.
It's not natural, it's more just built in, right? It's like, for example, Las Vegas is something that was created, right? So Punta Cana is also a destination that 30 years ago it was completely empty. Now it's full of resorts and buildings, and you know, it's really like touristic destination for touristic packages. The area of Barahona or Monte Cristi is extremely natural. So it's basically, if you go there, it's ecological environment, right? So it's really amazing. It's beautiful. So in Dominican Republic, with this said, what Daryl was mentioning is that we have like different phases, right? Like we have the complete natural part of Dominican Republic, and then we have the extreme touristic area of Dominican Republic where we have one resort after the other, or golf courses, etc., right?
Oriana, if you can get a little closer to the mic, just so you can hear you a little better, but we hear
Okay.
it. Perfect,
Do you hear me better now?
much better, yes. Thank-
Okay,
Well, we have-
sorry.
No, good. Thank you, guys.
So we talked a bit about each of these, but we'll give you a little more information. So Punta Cana is very English speaking. So when people come there, they can go at pretty much anywhere and be able to speak in their native English language, or if they speak Spanish, like it's very bilingual town because of its tourism. Very good for short-term residents, vacation rentals. There's a lot of all-inclusive resorts, beach town. It's a beautiful beaches, but the all-inclusive resorts. So you have your all-inclusive resorts there, obviously, but you have your hotel, not hotel, your condos that people buy and they're run like hotels, and they're more. They have all the resort feel, but they're just not all-inclusive. People go to get their own groceries, stuff like that. But there's a lot of those type of projects as well. But in those projects, there's lots of restaurants, there's shopping, like it's one-stop shop. You go to like Cap Cana, you go to Cap Cana, it's a one-stop shop. You go to Bavero, one-stop shop.
Exactly, they have like different type of neighborhoods, let's say. So Capcana, Bávaro, Punta Cana downtown, like it's different areas where you also have a different type of experience, let's say, because Capcana is more luxury style, right? And then we have also another luxury area, which is Cana Bay, which is now the new top 10 neighborhood in Punta Cana, where also very nice luxury developments are being constructed. The whole area of Punta Cana is very Airbnb friendly or hotel managed, basically. That are the two situations for investors there, which is very good. That we have a lot of clients that invest there and they don't even go ever to Punta Cana. They just let their money produce there. Yes, I mean, it's true. It's just like that. So then we have Santo Domingo, which is the capital of Dominican Republic, is a more Spanish speaking area because, it's a business city. All main Dominican companies are located in Santo Domingo. Let's say if you are interested in moving your big businesses, Santo Domingo is a good place to be, right? Although there are a lot of international businesses because we have also a lot of international flights connections to Santo Domingo. So it's perfect for business in that sense. Long-term rentals because of the business situation. So normally business people move to Santo Domingo and stay a longer period of time. And the town is basically Hispanic Latin town because it represents the history of Dominican Republic, right?
So if you're a history buff like me that loves history, the colonial area is a great area to go check out because you're going to see a lot of the history of the Dominican Republic from when the Spaniards took over the island.
Yeah, and also the architecture and everything is all represented in it. So then we have the North Coast where we are based in. It's a touristic area, but it's more like expat.
I think we have some technical problems, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. They're coming back. Daryl and Oriana.
I'm okay here.
Cool.
Hey guys, sorry about that. We lost power here, so we're going to stop on our phone. It'll make it a little more difficult for us to read the presentation, but
It's okay.
we'll be good.
Okay.
No worries.
So we were talking about the North Coast, right? So a lot of expats from North America, Latin America, or Europe move in this area because I mean it's a very nice area to live in the culture of Dominican Republic, which is completely different to the area, for example. You learn about Dominican culture, you work together with them like
And let's see if they get power back. Or like in Playa del Carmen, where we lose power. Let me see. One second. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Perfect.
Hey, you there?
Yes, we're back. We're back.
Okay, sorry. I just turned my Wi-Fi off because I think it's having issues.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so yeah, and I don't know what we missed there, but a little bit more about the North Coast. Oriana was saying that it's expat friendly, where a lot of expats come here to live. There's a lot of international schools,
exactly.
but it also makes it ideal for those who don't want the resort style. They come here because they like the culture, they like the vibe. So we get a lot of tourism on this side of the North Coast for those particular reasons as well. And there is up and coming projects. There right now they announced a major project with golf course. It's going to be, I don't know, 15-20 year project that's going to bring a massive Cana style project.
Yeah, it's called Punta Bergantin.
So lots of development going on the North Coast. And then Santiago.
Yeah, Santiago is the heart city called here because it's exactly in the center of Dominican Republic. And it's more like the mountain city, right? Because there we don't have coast, we don't have beaches. It's probably more fresh weather than in the coastline. It's a business city and full of culture, where normally culture exhibitions of the Dominican Republic are being held, and it's very ecological. It attracts a lot of ecological tourism over there because of the mountain surrounding, of course. And of course, please don't forget that in Dominican Republic, we have a lot of tropical fruits plantations, and most of them are being planted in the area of the mountains, because it's not so hot, so it gives really like the best ambiente to have this type of fruits, right? So Dominican Republic produces a lot of its own how do you say foods, right?
So yeah, I was saying this to someone the other day. This is a very sustainable country.
Exactly.
Because on the coast in the hotter areas, you're gonna get your bananas, your coconuts, your mangoes, your avocados. But then in the mountains, we have our strawberries, we have our tomatoes, we have it all.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
oranges, all kind of stuff. So Santiago is basically this area, which is Santiago City and Santiago Province, right? So these are more or less the 4 different type of destinations we have here in the Dominican Republic.
So economic growth, I'm a big numbers guy, and this is why people want to invest in the Dominican Republic. So since the turn of the century, well, even before the turn of the century, there has been, how would you say it, like government stabilization of the government, and each year there's been improvements. But since the turn of the century, the economic growth has, with the exception of the first year of COVID, every year has had better economics coming into the countries, like foreign direct investments, all those things. And it's hard to kind of read, but you look at the foreign direct investment for 2022 was $3.8 billion. If I'm not mistaken, we have to update this for 2023. But it was over $4.5 billion. So you can see a major increase year after year. And this helps with so many things because it allows for more growth and development in the infrastructure of the country. It helps to attract more tourism. So, and we'll talk a bit about the tourism in a sec, but But those are the things that are going to attract people to come here and invest here because they see that the growth is continuing year after year.
Yeah, and don't forget that tourism is the most important part of the economical growth in Dominican Republic, and it keeps growing and growing each year forward. Okay. Next. Yeah.
So here we have a lot of countries with direct flights, and this is opening up, but we have 159 international routes.
And
Not-
that's gonna increase
yeah,
right now.
and that's continuing to increase. Right now, in the last week, the Dominican Republic and the United States of America have announced open skies policy, which will allow more direct flights from more cities in the United States to the Dominican Republic, but it'll also offer opportunities for Dominicans to fly to different cities in the United States. Right now are basically, if you're flying out of here, a lot of the flights are just going to New York and Miami and Atlanta and Charlotte and maybe a few other destinations. But this is going to open up so much more avenues and direct flights for investors.
Yes, definitely. So that happened last Friday, and we are all extremely happy. So we're gonna see a lot of flights flying around now. So about some fun facts we have here. We have, well, I mean, any real estate investment over 200,000 US is qualified for an investment residency program here in Dominican Republic. That means you would get all your paperwork and Dominican residency immediately. And then we have more than 200 beaches around the area. And well, also don't forget about the cultural part. The bachata dance is certified as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity by the UNESCO. Sorry, my son is here with me. Summer vacations. And yeah, well, so let's dance bachata. Don't forget about that.
So with that $200,000 qualifying, it's on particular investments that the government has constituted as tourism. And so if you bought something that wasn't constituted as tourism, you wouldn't be eligible for that program. But anything that's considered by the government to be a tourist property, then you're eligible.
Thanks.
And we talked about, so you can see all the international flights. So like I said, there's more than just New York and Miami, but this is going to open up more flights to the Dominican Republic. But this one's more about in Punta Cana. But with the North Coast and the open skies, we're going to see a lot more of these cities that fly direct to Punta Cana. They're going to start flying direct to the North Coast as well. So types of properties. Well, pre-built.
Yeah, exactly. So the type of properties we have here in the Dominican Republic are 4 different types, like pre-built development. Then we have built assets, land or lots, and we have custom construction. So the pre-built developments, well, that would be like all these projects that are being created by specific developers, right? That are in a planned project, and you can obviously invest in it, and you will get your delivery of your property by the end of the construction, right? Which it can take more or less 2 to 3 years normally. Then we have the built assets, where we have houses, condos, townhouses, villas, commercials, all type of built assets here. Definitely here in Dominican Republic, you could find all kind of built assets, right? Then land and lots. Well, we have lots in gated communities. We have also open land, and we have also land for mixed use, like not only for construction, residential construction, also for commercial, meaning also land production, like, ecological production in that case, right? Then we have custom construction. Well, that is something a little bit more personalized, right? So if you decide to buy, for example, a lot or a piece of land, you can hire a construction company together with an architect who can design your own home. And depending, obviously, always on the permits and regulations of the area where this land is located, then you can construct whatever you like, right? You always have to respect the rules and regulations. Permits are quite easy to get if the design of the construction is under the regulated basis, right? And the budget is obviously flexible. It all depends what you want to do.
Yep. All right, Oriana's got to run for a sec. I'm going to continue here. So with types of financing. So we have seller financing, which is picking up some popularity here because it has been difficult to get bank financing or private lender financing for years here in the Dominican Republic. Now that is starting to change as well. But so seller financing was, as you know, we see globally, pricing has gone up in all countries. Same thing has happened here. So it's a lot harder for someone to come in and do the traditional way of, 5 years ago, 20 years ago of cash buying. And so with the struggles of getting banks, there is a lot of homeowners that are offering homeowner financing, and it's typically in the 5 to 7 year range at a negotiated percentage. I've heard of people negotiating like 10%. I haven't done any under or over 7%. So it's up to, the real estate agent to really negotiate those deals. But that comes down to like negotiations. But banks here are starting to, right now, if you're a foreign and international buyer, you're only eligible per bank one mortgage. So you can go to multiple banks and get different mortgages on different properties, but per bank, they will only allow you to have one mortgage. I don't know if that's a loophole that they'll close, that they didn't realize when they created it, but that's how it is right now. But it is hard. There's a lot of testing that goes through. Like you have to provide all the documents, all the property. Like no different than the United States, but maybe a little more transparency here because of the what do you call it? Money laundering.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very big on ensuring that money isn't being laundered through the country. And so that's why it's a strenuous testing. And then on top of that, a lot of banks, people don't realize is you'll get approved for a mortgage through a bank, and then you'll start looking for properties that you got approved for. And 4 months later, you're ready to buy. So you put an offer in thinking you're approved for a mortgage. But what happens is after 90 days, your approval's erased. Like you have to start the whole process over again. People don't know that. So then they're thinking they're approved. They go submit the paperwork to the bank 5 months later, 6 months later. And all of a sudden the bank's saying you're not approved. It's closing day and you're not getting money. And so you have to know people that know the rules of the banking system to ensure that situations like that don't happen to you.
Yes, and also I would like to add to it, there is also the possibility, not always, but sometimes it happens, that you can also get private financing directly from the sellers, right? So there are some properties where you can have this done. And it's in a legal contract together done with the notary or with the lawyer.
I gotta blow up my screen a bit here because I need to read this. Yeah, and so developer payment plans. So some developers have payment plans. Typically, a lot of them don't have financing, but some do have financing, and they again will be between 4 and 10 years. The payment plans though are through the construction. So usually they'll say, okay, you have to finance 50% of the project or 70% of the project, and we'll finance the rest. And then that'll be set up in stages of construction, how you pay that 50 or 70%. And then when you get the keys, that's when the financing begins.
Exactly. So normally it's a 20 to 30% down payment, and then 40% at the end, and the rest is during the construction process. Definitely. Okay.
And then typically, this is a standard, day 1 to day 31, but it could be 60 days, it could be 90 days. Closing is all on the buyers and sellers, what they agree on. But typically, we can have a sale completed within 31 days here, maybe even sooner. The sooner it takes, the title might not get transferred as quick as 31 days, but it'll be in the process in the courts, like the system to get transferred. So that's why some people typically want to go 45 to 60-day close, because title transfer can take up to two to 4 weeks. But day 1 is like, that's where you get your offer to purchase acceptance. So, we're representing a client looking to buy. The owner and the owner's agent will say, okay, we accepted the offer. And then we have our clauses like the home inspection, due diligence of clean title. So typically we will, before we put an offer in, we like to see the title. But during that first week, we get the lawyer to do a title check to make sure that the title's still in good standing, like there's no liens or anything against the title. And then at that point, if everything's good to go, we move on to the reservation deposit of 10%. So that's the most important part. The other two, you can walk away at any time, but once you put the 10% you can't, not that you can walk away. Other people can come put an offer in and bypass
In the
you
meantime,
in the
yeah.
meantime.
Mhm.
So once that 10% goes in, it legally takes that property off the market. So it's always important to try to get the home inspection done as early as possible. And get those, because someone else can come in and just say, oh, you know what, I don't want to do a home inspection, I want that property, here's my 10%, and then you just lost the property. Then the day 8 to day 30, you're gonna get all your mortgage financing if that's the process that you're gonna go for. And then up to day 31, paperwork for closing by licensed real estate lawyers. So real estate lawyers are gonna be the final, they put together the final contract. And it's done to Dominican standards and to ensure that everything gets moved over properly. And so, especially for foreign buyers, it will be translated. Everything's done in Spanish here, but there will be a translated copy in their native language. For the most part, I know they do English. I know they do something like French
Or German.
German, stuff like that. They might not do some remote languages in Africa, but typically that's what they'll do. And then you'll go over the contract, read the contract, ensure that you agree with all the terms, and make sure everything's good. And something that's not in here is we always have a final home inspection before close.
Mhm.
The 24 to 48 hours before close, because in our contract, it will say that the house has to be left in good standing as of the time that we agree to the purchase. And so then what will happen is we go in and let's say all the windows are busted out, right? I can request the lawyer to hold back money in escrow to get a quote on what it's going to cost to repair, make the repairs that need to be repaired because it's no longer in good standing. And then he will pull that back and we can have that money to make sure that everything's in good standing because you bought it as a condition. So that's something that is important. If they're not doing those, then you want to work with a different real estate agent because that's very important.
Yeah, so only to add a mention here, Daryl is very correct about the home inspection, but here in the Dominican Republic, it's not a must, the home inspection. So it's something that the client has to decide if they want it or not. We, as obviously honest real estate agents, we will always recommend to do a home inspection, but it's something that the client has to decide to do. And a lot of clients, that is what has happened in the past a lot, is that they just to save, I don't know, like around $350, for the home inspection being done, they decide not to spend that money, but then could be they don't have the warranty that the house or the property that they are purchasing is going to be in that conditions they are thinking it is, right? So then we get then messages probably after a few weeks or a month, like, oh, look what's happening. Oh, look, this and that. Home inspection, always do a home inspection.
So just to touch on that, I've only had one client deny a home inspection and I got messages afterwards telling me they should have listened to me and went with the home inspector. Because there was termite issues and there were some other issues within the house after they moved in, but there was nothing we could do legally at that point because we didn't do the home inspection, we didn't have it in a contract. And in another case, this wasn't like with us, it's just my wife does property management. There was a sale being done, and so when we do the 48-hour inspection, why it's important is because a lot of these houses will stay on the rental market until closing. And so you don't know what happens from the time you looked at it to the time of close.
Mhm.
And there was one property that had over $10,000 in damage, and there was nothing they could do because there was nothing in the contract to protect them from that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and then we have closing day and how they're said more or less it takes 90 days or could be sooner to get the title transfer. So here we have pre-construction purchases. We have like the pre-sale during the construction or post-sale. So if a developer is constructing a new project, right? You have the possibility to buy in pre-sale, meaning before the construction starts. For that, it's recommended to do a good search and due diligence about the developer, about the construction company, about basically everything around that project, so that you are sure that your investment is going to be a good investment. Normally, a real estate agent will help you with that and will guide you in all these due diligences, right? Then you have, of course, this initial contact and review everything. Basically, it's the same. And then you sign a letter of promise of sale, where you basically pay a reservation fee. Normally can be between $5,000 and $10,000. And then at least a maximum 1 month later, you do the first down payment, which is normally between 20 and 30%, including this promise of sale amount, right? So, and then you continue paying during the construction phases, and the last payment will be done at the delivery. But pre-sale is also good because the prices are lower. During the construction, the prices go up a little bit. There is obviously a payment schedule, like in each construction, a timeline. Then there is the delivery of the construction, the closing, and they are going to use normally an escrow account, what we call here, that will help you to protect your investment, right? Like your money before you get the property. So normally it's everything done through lawyers that protect the buyer and the seller in each case, right? If any one of both sides steps back, right? Like this, the money is protected. Then there is this option also to buy with a company, like under a company name, not under a personal name, which here a lot of expats, or let's say people from abroad, they decide to do, because like this, they think they are protected from any case of having an accident or anything that could happen here. Your property, your future property is protected under the company name. So legally, nobody can touch that property, right? So in post sale, well, it's very similar, just like resale, in the sense of you have to check the title and the registration papers and everything about the property. You do an appraisal of the of the updated value of the property to see if it's correct. Then you have to do the property transfer taxes, meaning you pay 3% of property transfer taxes once in a lifetime. And then you have to pay annually also the property taxes, which is 1% of the property value. Then you have to make sure if you are buying in a condominium that everything with the HOA is up to date, right? So that you are not having like, how do you say, like you say, like the previous owner should have everything up to date so that there are no dues or anything left, payments left, so that the new owner just can start paying the HOA fees right away from the moment they start to be the new owners, right? And well, then there is also the developer guarantees. If this is a completely new construction, normally developer guarantees between 1 or 2 years of construction, of post-construction, right? For all the possibilities that happen in the construction.
And we're going to talk a bit more about taxes a bit more in this presentation, so you guys can have more of an understanding of it.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are over there. Okay, so property tax. So like Oriana was saying, there's a 1% tax on all properties here, but it's doesn't start until you reach a threshold, and that threshold right now is roughly in the 166,000.
Yeah.
500,000 or 166,500 US dollars. That is exempt from taxes. It's anything above that price. And I believe it's 9.8 million pesos. So whatever the equivalent of 9.8. When we first did this presentation, it was around 166. Our dollar hasn't changed much, so it's still in that range. And then the 3% property tax is applied to the final sale contract at signing.
Transfer.
So this tax is applied to the transfer of sale. And then we have some really good opportunities for investors. Confiture law allows for developments. This is good on a lot of scales, but it's really good for investors because it gives you 15 years of no property taxes. You don't pay the 3% property tax transfer ever. There is exemption on tax on rental income. So that's another huge thing.
Yeah.
But not every project has confiture. They have to apply for it. They have to be approved for it, but it's only allowed in touristic areas.
Exactly.
So if someone was buying in Santiago, there would be no confiture most likely in Santiago unless it was like some really big project that really I can't see too many.
Attracts tourists,
Yeah.
like only tourists, right? Because it's normally done for the area of the coastline, and it's normally measured more or less 1 kilometer from the coastline to the inside. All this area can be applied normally for confiture. That is the regular.
Oh, I lost that screen. I lost the share screen.
You lost the share screen. How can we see the share screen? Yes.
Just
Yeah.
scroll to the right or
Yeah, now.
Okay, we got it. Sorry. So real case study. So like, for example, if you had a property that was 366,500 USD versus that didn't have confiture versus confiture, the land transfer would be 10,500 USD, and the property taxes per year would be around $2,000 per year. So you can see with confiture, the same property will be exempt for 15 years, a total savings of 40,000 US dollars, and that doesn't include any taxes you save on the rental. That I could put a number in there, but it fluctuates with each property and how much they rent for and what area they're in.
Yeah, not always confiture, like confiture projects are the best decision. It all depends, right? Because normally all the new projects or developments that have the confiture law in it included, obviously the price, the purchasing price is much higher because the permits for getting confiture law into the development for the developer also increase the cost, for them. So they have to kind of like balance it out. But long term, obviously 15 years exempt of taxes is always a good thing.
So, and one last thing about that is currently right now, if you buy a property in your name with Confiture, you cannot transfer it over. If you buy it in a corporation, you can transfer the corporation over to someone. You can't transfer the corporation to a personal. But I'm hearing that could change in the future where upon sale there, but as of right now, if you have it in a corporation, it's good to go. But I'm hearing that the government's trying to close the corporation loophole.
Exactly.
So just like we talked about the buyer closing costs, we got a 4% buyer closing costs, 1% legal fees, 3% for the land transfer or title transfer tax. And so that's all the fees at the end that a buyer's gonna have when they purchase in the Dominican Republic.
Exactly.
Capital gains, that's a big one here, 27%. It's only applied to properties with value of over the 9.8, so anything over 166,000 is anything below that price is exempt.
Exactly.
But the 27%, we've seen it's hard right now because a lot of sellers don't want to negotiate right now because property values have gone up a lot in the last few years. And so someone who bought something at 200,000 4 years ago and is now sitting at the 450,000, it's very tough to negotiate them down from that price because of that capital gains tax. So hopefully over the next, because there is a lot of changes happening, hopefully they'll bring that capital gains tax down to mimic some of the other countries in the Caribbean, but some are as low as 3%. So I would say that's probably our biggest drawback right now. And so I'm hoping that that's something that will change, but we like to be transparent and open with everyone and let them know what they're looking
Well,
at.
that's how it works here. I mean,
So construction, if you so if this is more like all the big projects like Noval
Exactly.
will have all this stuff, but if you go and do it yourself and you're building a villa or something, you want to make sure that you see all the legal permits are completed, the pre-project is completed, and city approval or country like the city like the permit approval.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So there are 5 different permits that has to be approved. That is the city hall, that is like the city approval, the environment, the touristic, and then there is the design, like pre-project design has to be approved, right? And then also the, how do you say, basically the land, the area where you're going to do the construction,
Yes.
you have to
The density one.
yeah, exactly, the density one. You have to have also the pre-approval. So that are the 5 permits you have to have before starting the construction. Then regarding the architecture and design of the build, you need to have a pre-project approved, like we said before, then have a creative process and design. The water, electricity, and infrastructure has to be also pre-designed correctly so that everything works fine afterwards. Septic tanks. Here in this country, we use septic tanks because there is no, how do you call it?
Sewer system.
Yeah, sewer system. So here normally if you are planning to construct your own villa, then you have to create your septic tank. It's very important. The same as water tank, basically a cistern, a water cistern, which you can fill up with city water or with your own well water, let's say, right? There are these 2 possibilities, but you should have always a septic tank and a water cistern. Architect and builders have to come together and analyze all the project together before starting the construction so that everything is clear. And there has to be, we recommend always you should have a project manager. Normally is the construction manager, should be also project manager, but depending on the on the size of the project you want to build, you should have a project manager. So cost of construction. Well, yeah, more or less, we are paying $1,200 per square meter at the moment. It all can vary a little bit depending on the material costs we're having. And as you know, worldwide, we're having an inflation of all the prices. So sometimes it can change. 10, 15 years ago, you were able to do a construction for $600 per square meter. Now it has changed. It has doubled. Doubled the price, but we recommend that we offer that you follow really like the best price and conditions of construction, because if not, at the end you will get bad results for your construction and you won't be happy. That happened to a lot of our clients, that they decided not to pay.
Well,
Not to pay expensive. It's not about expensive. It's like getting the quality you are expecting to get, right? Because if not, you're gonna lose.
I want to correct Oriana. When we say our clients that we're working with now after they went through a bad process.
Oh yeah.
The nest needs to be cleaned up. And so I just wanted to verify that you guys.
Sorry. Yes, I was meaning that. Like there are so many foreigners. They come here, they want to build their house, and they just think, oh, everything should be cheap in Dominican Republic, right? So they just try to analyze different construction companies or construction managers, and some of them are like offering, oh, I'm gonna build your house for $600 per square meter or $800, and then somebody else comes like, no, it's $1,200 per square meter. That's the thing. You have to really analyze the quality you're getting for it. And it's very important to make sure before you start any construction that you are 100% secure on what you're going to get. So yeah, here we have a sample, for example, right? You can say.
Yeah.
So
like if we have a 100-meter house, you're looking at 120,000, right? For a 100-meter squared house. Typically, if you're looking at 3 bedrooms, you're probably as low as 125, 130 meter squared. 2 bedrooms could be 90 to the 130 mark. And then that's if you're looking to buy in one of the touristic areas. It's not more for you, it's more for about Airbnb stuff type thing. Like for us, we did a 4-bedroom, but it's like 236 meters squared. So yeah, it's all depending on what you want, but like when it comes to Airbnb, it's got to have the necessities that people want, but it doesn't need to be extravagant, like 300 meters squared. That's not going to get you more than something that, because people are coming for 1 week or a weekend or something, and they just want, a nice place that they can crash at. So you're in 100 meters squared, you're looking at about 120,000 plus whatever the land cost is and stuff like that.
exactly, yeah, that's correct.
So if you guys are familiar with Mexico real estate at all, we're very similar to Mexico. We don't have an MLS, although there is a new website that's coming online that might become a MLS in the future. A standardized one. So we're excited about that. Our company is in the beginning phases of being we didn't organize it, but we're
included,
we're included in the initial first 6 months of its launch. So we're hoping that will really standardize things. And then we are not a regulated industry yet. Like there is, obviously to get a sales contract done, you have to go through a lawyer. So that's pretty regulated. But outside of that, there's not much regulations. And like I said, like people got to be careful when they're working with a real estate agent here.
You have to choose the right real estate agent. It's very important. So there are online also, you can really find how it should work, all the situation of purchasing a property in Dominican Republic. So before you decide to work with an agent, you should also make sure that you did a little bit of the how to say, research online, because everything is very clear. So there you cannot get like scammed by a realtor or something like that. It's very important. We really recommend that. Not only us, there are other real estate agents that are very honest and transparent, and it's very, very important, because don't forget, we are in the Caribbean and in a not developed country like the United States, for example, right? And because of this no regulation process here of real estate, it's very important that people really do their duties before starting the whole process.
So like, let's go to like title issues, property scams. So in the past, like the government, the Dominican government, I don't know when they enacted it, but you might know, changed their titles over to more standardized title, and any property that has that new title is good. The old ones you have to have a lawyer do due diligence on and to check out, because not everyone has been changed. Anything that's new built gets that new title. Anything that's old keeps the old title until it changes owner's hands.
And old would be more or less, we could go 20 to 25 years back, right? That is like old titles, right? If they didn't have no transfer.
Yeah.
If you do a transfer, automatically you get the new title.
And that new title is good. You see that title, you're happy to see that title.
It's very important also, if you decide to purchase a property here, whatever type of property it is, make sure it has a title, because here there are a lot of properties without a title. That is always a problem.
That's a problem. And then not everything that shines is gold. So, I had clients looking for a fixer upper flipper. They you have flippers in Canada, United States. We were looking at some properties. We walked into one property and I was just like, man, this is a perfect flip house, but I have some serious concerns about it. And I asked the owner directly. I said, do you have the plans, the permits for the construction of this house, so I can, just review it? And she told me, no, we built it 15 years ago. We wrote it down on a napkin and gave it to the builder, and the builder built it with no permits, nothing. And I turned to my clients and said, yeah, you're not buying this because this house can fall down tomorrow. And that's the thing, right? You want to make sure, if there's any, especially if you're in that market looking for those type of properties, you want to make sure the permits are not the permits, the plans and everything are all, because they have to be signed off, everything. Yes, I couldn't believe it. She said that. I was dying, Nathaly. I was like, I can't wait to get out of this house. I told her as soon as we got out of there, I was like, client, no, we're moving. We're not, don't touch this house. So then that's not everything. Over promising, under delivering. This is a big problem here. Especially now. So after COVID, after everything opened up during COVID, everybody and their mothers were traveling. I had friends who I hadn't seen travel in 10 years, traveled 3 times in the first 6 months. And so a lot of realtors here will use Airbnb numbers from that time frame to say, hey, here's what you're going to make. And it's not the truth. It's not the case. The prices were inflated. The rental occupancy rates were inflated. And you want to work with someone that's going to give you those honest numbers. We're looking at between, in a good area, like a great area, like some areas in Punta Cana or some areas here on the North Coast, yes, you can get up to 85% occupancy. But average wise throughout the country, you're looking between 45 to 65%. And so that's something that people really need to look into, because I know clients, my wife's property management, their agent told them they'd make $10,000 a month. And they showed them the numbers from the COVID year, and the best month that person has had has been just over $4,000. So big difference. So if someone's over promising, watch out for that. And time is relative. I don't know why we have that in there. You know why?
No, time is relative, well, because sometimes foreigners, they are used to have everything on time done, right? So here time is relative, because you have to I don't know, when you work with people, you have to just, make sure that they are gonna do the job. Whatever type of job you are asking for, if it's a lawyer's job, if it's a plumber to organize some stuff in the house, or an electrician, it doesn't matter, but it's not done like right away, right? So you just have to take the time, be patient, because here, for everybody, time is somehow relative, right? So getting material, sometimes when you are in the coast, not in the coastline, you get everything. Sometimes you have to travel to Santiago or to Santo Domingo to get some materials, And sometimes the materials are not there, you have to wait for it. So it's really like, you have to be patient. You have to be patient. Doesn't mean that things are not going to work out. It means you just have to not go crazy because things don't work the same way as at home, let's say, right? So,
So the currency exchange rate is very important. About a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I'd have to look at the history. We were at around 52, 53 pesos per dollar. Now we're at 58. So if someone were to buy today at 58, 59 pesos, and in a year, like they're bought into a major project that's going to take 3 years, in a year, that dollar fluctuates and goes down to 52. In a lot of those builder contracts, there is how do you say it? There's
a
a
clause.
contingency plan for the price of the property to increase if there's a big fluctuation in the currency.
Exactly.
And so a lot of people don't know that or aren't taught that. So what happens is when when the builder says, okay, we sold you this for 200,000, but there was a 10%, 12% fluctuation in the exchange rate because everything's bought in Dominican pesos here. We have to charge an extra 20,000 now. It really people people get upset. So it's important to let people know that when they're buying something that if you're buying a house to build right now, it's going to take less than a year. You're not going to see that, right? Most of the material is going to get bought in the beginning stages. But something that's going to take 3 years, that could be a big determining factor.
But for example, I am building a house right now. I am finishing, like doing really, really the last finishings at the moment. But I started building the house last year, by the last quarter of last year. And I have this article in the contract where it says that because we are in Dominican Republic and they wanted to give me the price in dollars, well, the exchange rate that we're going to use is the exchange rate of that moment, which was 56 pesos for $1. Well, I won a little bit.
You want
anyways.
a little bit. You want a little
But it's something that had to be respected until the end of the construction. So then we have the infrastructure. Okay, there is the situation in this country that sometimes you have no water and no electricity. So the infrastructure of the constructions here in general should be organized. If you're living, for example, inside of a project, right? Normally in the HOA fees, you also pay for these amenities of having 24 hours electricity and water. If you construct your own built house in a piece of land that is not inside a residential project, then you have to take care about it. In that case, or you install an inverter or a generator, thank you, so that you can always have your 24-hour electricity and water, which is what we need mainly at home, right?
And let's just, I know for time purposes, a lot of the next part is
Yeah,
just
we already talked about it.
we talked about, but just making sure you're working with the right people, lawyers and everything. Even here, there has been, you make sure that the lawyer is very well respected, has long standing here, because sometimes you might buy someone might buy a property and they want you to use their lawyer, but their lawyer is their uncle. So right. And
Yeah.
so you always want to have your own lawyer and one that has long standing. That's very important. Even if they want to use their lawyer, you make sure you use a lawyer that is going to represent you and not just go to the cheaper route and say, okay, because then it's not as expensive to use their lawyer type thing. It's important to have your own lawyer.
Yeah, so I mean, there is also the situation of person-to-person recommendation. So from other experiences of other friends or clients, you can realize, is this a good lawyer? Is this a good realtor? Is this a good worker, right? So just rely on references, on reviews also. Well, get to know us. There you have our QRs where you can contact us through our website, through our social networks and everything. So we would be glad to get contacts from you. And well, if you have any questions, here we are in DR. Visit us as soon as possible.
And we'd love for you to go. That is no longer the name, so we do have to change that. It's called Investing in the Dominican Republic now, but we'd love for you to go check out our YouTube channel, subscribe.
Exactly. There you will have a lot of fun videos from us and from all our experiences here. Thank you, Nathaly, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Nathaly. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oops,
Yeah.
technical issues. Thank you guys. It was super helpful to understand, the market in DR. Very similar to Mexico, but it attracts, different type of, it's more mature, I think, right? More mature.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone has any, I don't know.
We can open it for questions and I'll stop recording. Again, thank you, Oriana and Daryl. I will leave all the information on the description of the video so you can go straight to their channel and or contact them directly if you have any questions, or you can, ask, hey, I have a friend that is looking and let's introduce you and then see what happens. So please keep that in mind. It was a long, presentation, but very detailed. So you can have all the resources, but you can always have access to the team in DR for anything that you might need. I'll stop recording now.